The latest trend from Gen Z that you might be seeing in your workplace, it's called bare minimum Mondays. Bare minimum Mondays is a phrase that was coined by a TikTok influencer. Let me see her name here. Marissa Jo Mays. I'm not on TikTok, so I don't have any idea who this girl is. She's apparently 29, so she's a little old. Is that even Gen Z? Is 29 years old Gen Z? Well, she's a little bit old to be acting like this. She should be acting a little bit, that cannot be Gen Z, right? I'm asking my control room here because I'm sure they're gonna Google it. Technically, she is not Gen Z. Technically, she's not, but I guess she's somewhat of a Gen Z influencer on TikTok, so whatever. This has become a Gen Z trend. But she introduced this trend, bare minimum Mondays, on her Twitter or on her TikTok account, and it's gone like millions and millions of views viral, and people claim in the comments that they are implementing this in their own work lives. Take a look at this.
Here's how you can do bare minimum Monday if you have a more traditional job. I totally get this. I used to have the same boss. The very first thing you want to do is remove any wishful thinking tasks from your list. Tuesday, you can overachieve. Once you've condensed your to-do list as much as possible, the rest of your bare minimum Monday actually happens in your brain. The reason I began this in the first place is because I was putting so much pressure on myself that it was hard for me to do anything. And one thing I know would have helped me when I was in corporate is to think to myself, where might I be putting unnecessary pressure on myself? Like, what are you overly stressed about that you just don't need to be stressed about? What can you choose to not care about today, knowing that it actually won't make a difference? Where can you choose to be a little bit nicer to yourself today? Where can you cut yourself some slack? That is where most of the bare minimum Monday work comes in. It's not actually about your schedule.
What can you choose not to care about today is her question. Maybe she identifies. So I Googled it while we were watching that. And actually, it's 11 years old to 26 years old. That's Generation Z. But my guess is that Marissa Jo identifies as Gen Z because that's what she's acting like. What can I choose not to care about today? Okay, so I actually have a couple of thoughts in here. I'm not just here to mock her. I do think she's ridiculous. I would never hire her. But false prophets, and I know she's not preaching the gospel, but someone who is trying to influence someone else, meaning they are sharing their message, they typically do so when they're perpetuating something that's untrue. They don't offer you a lie that's based in 100% of falsehood because you would reject it, right? It would be like the frog in the dropping a frog in a pot of boiling water. If it was that false, you jump right out. But if you put a frog in a pot of cold water and then you turn up the heat, it doesn't notice it. This is the same with liars or false prophets. They package their false message in a grain of truth, and usually that grain of truth is dissatisfaction of some kind, in this case, dissatisfaction of millennials and Gen Zers at work. And there's an element of truth to it that causes the people that she's trying to influence to latch on to believing that her solution is also correct, since her diagnosis of the problem was tangentially correct. And what I mean by this is the corporate hamster wheel. That's unhealthy. I think we can all agree that materialism is wrong. A lot of young people think that in our culture, the workforce has become a very toxic and unhealthy place where people become workaholics because that's their identity, even when their job is not so all-encompassing or so service-oriented that it requires 100% of their time. They are pursuing their job to this extent because they want prestige, because they want money, because they want material items, because they want to show off to their friends. That's a very unhealthy lifestyle. And it's on that grain of truth that this young girl builds her lie, basically on the fact that a lot of people in their jobs don't have the right priorities. They're not prioritizing their family first and their faith first and their country first. They're prioritizing just plain old money for all of the greedy reasons that people throughout human history have always pursued money.